Hi, I'm Helena. So today we're going to talk about the last of the Wagnerian works, which is Parsifal. It was originated in, I always get this wrong. For some reason I always say 1871, but it was in fact 1881. So it was originated in 1881, he died in 1882, so this is quite literally the last thing, and it's the most confusing one. And I'm gonna say this right now because you should not take my word on this for granted. Like, I'm gonna explain it as good as I can, but since I'm not like Christian and stuff, there's a lot of stuff that really gives me nothing, I'm gonna say. So, this is a hard one. I mean, it's also so constructed over so many timelines. This is really confusing, and I'm gonna say it, when I see it on DVD, I only watch the second act. Said it, I stand by it, I only watch the second act. The third act is, well, I think for Christians it's not boring, obviously, but, well, I already said the word boring, so you know where this is going, basically. And the first act is, it's okay, and well, yeah. You know, I like my female figures, and there's only one in this. So since we're now back from our pagan ring, and we're now back to the Christian works, which was like every other thing except maybe for Tristan. So we're back to the two women thing. But since it's the last one and he was a misogynist, we're back to one woman. So there's only one woman in this, and I think she has two words in the third act, and she is not represented properly. And I'm gonna say it, she's what is called the Jewish knight figure in this. So it's her and a guy named Klingsor. It's Kundry and Klingsor. You can always, by the names, roughly say who's good and who's bad. For example, you have Ortrud and Venus and Kundry as the Jewish knight figures of Wagner, and you have Ava and Elsa and another one with E for the Germanic light figures, whatever this is. It's really stupid, let's be honest. It's really outdated, and it's unfortunately coming back. Like, why, people? Come on. I thought we were over this. But never mind. You can always say this by the way that the name rings. And you already see this, that this whole Jewish thing was not about the religion. Because if we're correct, Venus is not Jewish. Ortrud is a Germanic priestess. They are both not Jewish. You could argue that maybe Kundry was Jewish in a former life, but she's not anymore. So, like, people, get over it. So we're gonna start with this, and I'm gonna try to describe it as good as I can. I was really afraid of this episode, like before, because it's so confusing and I don't really look through it myself. I can make a few things about Kundry, but really, like, the whole thing is, it's difficult. Let's be real, it's bloody difficult. So, I'm gonna start with the person page, as always. Again, only Kundry. Kundry is the only woman. Solo woman, there's a choir, but she's the only woman. So, we've got Amfortas. Remember the name, men, because this might be a name which you call out after you've kissed a woman. Just spoilering it. So Amfortas, he's the king of the Grail, currently. But before, he was wounded by the sacred spear. For everyone who is Christian, you already know spear, obviously. But for those who are not Christian, there is this tale, I don't know if it's true, but since there's a very, very similar story in Germanic mythology, I'd argue that it's probably copied by that. that Jesus was wounded while he was on the cross by a spear. So, same thing happened to Wotan. He hung on a tree. He was wounded by his own spear. So, copied probably. But this spear is one of the most prized possessions, let's say it like that, of the Brothers of the Grail. So it's this spear, and it's of course the Holy Grail. Amfortas was wounded, so this is before this whole thing even starts. He was wounded while, let's say, while committing a sin. Just saying. And this wound won't close, and they don't have the spear anymore. So if they touch the wound with the spear again, then everything will be good again. He will be healed. But at this point, he has been suffering for years, wounded by the spear, wound doesn't close, nothing makes it better in any way, shape or form. So, yeah, well, where would he sin? If he hadn't sinned, all this wouldn't have happened. So, next one is Titurel. Titurel is basically, he should be dead, but the Grail makes him be alive still, which is, I mean, no one should overstay, let's say, in the world. I mean, obviously with the Grail it's something different because it keeps you healthy and it keeps you alive, but this is unnatural. Let's be very clear about this. This is unnatural. It's natural for Christians, I don't know, but it's not natural. So Titurel is basically kept alive by the Holy Grail. Then the next guy we've got is Gwynemans. He's this old guy who's basically also a brother of the Grail, and he's just hanging around and is kind of this advisor type person. Then the next one is, of course, Parsifal himself. Again, another tenor role, Wagnerian Heroes tenor. It's a thing. We've seen him like a couple of 100 times already. Feels like it. He is, spoiler alert, and by spoiler alert, I mean, let's go back 7 weeks. Because he will be, at one point, the father of Lohengrin. So if you've watched my episode on Lohengrin already, you know Parsifal will at one point be the king of the Grail. Just saying, we already know that. So there's not really anything new, but Parsifal at this point, he's kind of, he's the Siegfried type. He's a Siegfried type before Siegfried was in the real world. He's naive, I wouldn't call it dumb. He's really into the natural rights thing, we've talked about this. I don't think he even remembers his name. His IQ is basically at about, I don't know, 2 at this point. We'll get better later, but at this point, still. Also, we've got the next one we've got is Klingsor. So Klingsor is kind of this fallen knight. He has sinned before and has, after this, as to cut off the sin. How shall I put this? I already said it kind of. He castrated himself. Woo! Because that's the real thing to do. It's not about like going into your mind and thinking about the sin and maybe, I don't know, doing something about it, like praying or stuff. No, it's just castrating yourself and then everything's forgotten. It's not. Like people, it's not. So, he's kind of this bad wizarding figure. And now we've got Kundry. And Kundry is the most difficult person in this whole piece because she's lived several lives. This is mentioned in the second act at the beginning, when Klingsor kind of, makes her magically appear on the stage. He basically calls her several names. One of them is Herodias. If you haven't read the Bible, I have not, so I had to look this up. Herodias is the mother of a woman who, danced a certain dance. We know her, the daughter, today as Salome. This is not the name she had in the Bible. In the Bible she had no name, but Herodias is her mother. So great family to start with. So this was presumably her first life. Then the second name they get out is Kundrygia. I don't know. I don't know if I googled this once and therefore obtained my information from that, or if it is just something I imagined. But I always had the feeling of this name being like a Germanic thing. So probably being, I don't know, a cool Viking queen or something like that. So really a fierce woman. That's what I imagined. And of course now her name is Kundry, which would make me think that when she woke up again or was born again, that her first words or something like that, that she remembered she was Kundry at one point and then said something like Kundry or something, and then she was named Kundry because it's very similar. Let's be real. So basically at one point in history, Kundry laughed, not as Kundry, but in the former life, she laughed about the Savior, what the Christians called the Savior. She laughed about him and was therefore, well, cursed. And now she's basically in a situation with Klingsor. It might also be that she was the one he sinned with and therefore he hates her so much. She's definitely the woman that Amfortas sinned with, and then Amfortas was wounded by the spear, by Klingsor probably. So there's a lot going on with Kundry. Let's be real. We will probably never ever see completely through this. There have been essays and papers written about her. It's a lot. Basically, she is kept against her will by Klingsor. She has to do everything he says, but only when she sleeps. So basically she runs on, I don't know, Red Bulls or something to keep her awake, because as soon as she sleeps, she wakes up at Klingsor's castle. This is described often in like the first act when she says, I shouldn't sleep, but she breaks down eventually. Yeah, I think that was everything. Hopefully. We're already 12 minutes in. We didn't really start with the thing. So, let's start with the text itself. So, basically, I tried to do this with as little of this reclam as possible. But as I said, I'm not secure about this whatsoever. So, please forgive me if I get anything wrong. On the other hand, I was secure with the ring and with Götterdämmerung, I messed it up in the literally last 10 minutes. Stupid. Anyway, basically we're in the forest around, well, the castle with the Grail. And we have Gurnemans praying with, well, some squires or some knights. I think they're squires. Look this up. It's so important if they're squires or knights. We have to... Squires. Okay. So he's kind of praying with a few squires. They're talking about how Amfortas has been, well, wounded before. Not especially how he was wounded, because he wouldn't talk about that, obviously. But that he was wounded, that it doesn't close, So, the next thing that happens is that Kundry comes. So, Kundry comes, she's this wild young woman. She's extremely, well, she's not in a good state. She's basically has been on a horseback riding day and night to retrieve something for the Grail King to heal. She doesn't remember at this point that it was she herself that who well, Amfortas sinned with. Just keep that in mind. She just knows that sleeping is bad. Okay? So, Kundry comes, she has this kind of, she's got some stuff with her for him to, I don't know, maybe it's an oil or something, or herbs or something. So that should help the king. And yeah, she's really, they don't like her because she's a woman. Misogyny, Catholic Church, we know it, we know the deal. It's a thing. So they don't really like her. She seems pagan. She doesn't seem Christian. She is too wild, too, I don't know, unkempt. You know what I mean? She's also not in a good physical state. She's got this long wild hair, not the, I don't know, pretty updo with a veil or something that a Christian woman would wear. And she's just wild. She's also not married, which makes it even worse. So they are like on a, yeah, okay, you're here, you help us, wonderful, give it off, and then be on your way attitude. Gunnemans is the only one who's even remotely nice to her, because I think he sees that she's no threat. At least not at this state, but he doesn't know that. And then already, I hope I get the order right. And then already, I think it's first Parsifal who comes, and he comes with a dead swan whom he killed. And you might say, swan, 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 there was something with a swan. Yes, it was a Lohengrin. So again, we have this swan motive going on of saying the son came with a boat drawn by a swan and the father murders a swan. So kind of, this is probably kind of a holy creature for them, to say that the swan was the thing that began the whole Parsifal will be Grail King thing. And so it went on with Lohengrin with the swan. But as I said, Parsifal comes and he's got the dead swan, and Gunnemans is like, "What? You killed a swan? This is a no murder zone, bro. This is not okay." And Parsifal's like, "Why?" Because he's stupid. It is a thing. But he and Kundry, they have a kind of an immediate connection almost, of like two brain cells meeting each other. And Gunnemans also says that. He's like, "Oh God, these are the two stupidest people I've ever met. This is not getting better." Parsifal also does not know his name. He doesn't know really much. But Kundry says at one point that she saw his mother and saw her die while she was riding on horseback, I don't know, at the house she was living in. So she kind of knows who Parsifal is, but she doesn't at the same time. And this makes everyone insane, basically. Who wouldn't? Then the next thing that happens, I think it's the right order, which is quite insane because I messed up Götterdämmerung. How can I be right now? Anyway, now Amfortas comes. So again, he's not well. He's been bathing in a nearby lake. He's at the end of his powers, and basically Kundry gives him this oil, these herbs, whatever, and says, "Yeah, it should help you." And then she just leaves while talking about needing to sleep. Just saying. So she's done her duty. She's kind of employed by the Holy Grail in some way, but more of an ambassador, freelancer ambassador. And also, I forgot this before. Kundry almost always meets the savior at one point in his reborn state. You already know where this is going. But she almost always meets him, but she's not able to free herself from him, and she always makes him sin in a way, destroys him in a way. She never gets to the state of being saved and being able to die. This is a very important thing. She wants to die. Never forget this while you're in like a modern version of this. She wants to die. Because this is one thing that they almost always change. She wants to die. She needs to die. It's the only thing she wants. Just saying. Okay. She goes off saying sleep, 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 sleep. And kind of crashes behind the bushes and sleeps. Hopefully it's not the knight's toilet. Anyway. Then Amfortas is like this whole king thing going on, and he talks to Parsifal, and it's whoa and wonderful, and they say, okay, good, we're gonna go back to the castle and gonna go to see the Grail. Amfortas is not too keen on seeing the Grail again because it reminds him of his sin, and I would think that it causes him physical pain to be so close to something so pure, but while he gave up his purity. Just a thought. So, they all go, and Gunnemans invites Parsifal to come along to the castle. And they basically have Titurel's voice, I think. I don't know if we see him, at least not in the first act. But he's kind of out of the graves beneath the church. His voice is coming out, and he says, hey, Amfortas, I kind of want to live on here. So please get out the Grail and unveil it and unwrap it, and so I can live on. Again, not natural. While death is something horrible for everyone who's left behind, it's sometimes necessary. It's the natural thing. It's the natural course of the world. And kind of, they all come back, and they have their whole kind of Grail ceremony going on. And Parsifal, he really doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what he's seeing. He lacks the, I would almost say, intelligence to understand what he's seeing. And, well, yeah. That is basically it. I forgot something again, but well, I'll remember it hopefully later. Hopefully. Oh yeah, the pure fool. So there's basically been kind of this prophecy going on with the pure fool, who is, I would suppose, another reincarnation of Jesus. And Gunnemans has the suspicion that Parsifal might be that. So he thought if he brought him to the Grail ceremony, then Parsifal would have his, I don't know, aha moment, kind of. And he does not have that. He doesn't. So basically, they are left behind, the Grail is veiled. The Grail is veiled again, and they're left behind, and Gunnemans is like, hey bro, what did you think about this? And Parsifal's like, what? Like, I don't get it. And Gunnemans is like, oh, you're really as stupid a fool as I thought. You're not the pure fool. Get out of here. I don't want to see you again. This is the end of the first act, which is already long. Let's be real. And it's gonna be even longer. So, second act. Second act is one I'm actually more or less secure about, because it's the only one I always watch, like on my phone and stuff, or on DVD. As I said, never seen it in person. Just never happened. But now we're in the second act. So we are in this really run-down castle. So while the Castle of the Grail was really shiny, was really neat, and was really pretty, and everything was clean, this is like the stepsister, the evil stepsister of that. So we've got this really run-down place. We've got Klingsor going on, Klingsor moaning about, lamenting about his missing body parts, let's say, and how horrible his life is, and what a victim he is, and the whole thing, basically. And he says, I'm a victim of Kundry. And he kind of, I don't know, he kind of makes her appear in some magical, weird way. And she is in physical pain. She's in physical pain while she sees that, because for the first time since we started this play, she knows what she's done, and she knows her prospect of being saved, which are basically zero. So she's really in bodily pain, in physical pain, but she also mocks Klingsor for what he is, for what he's become, for what he was. And Klingsor, he doesn't like that so much. And basically then Klingsor goes to a window and he says, oh, there's this guy coming. There's Parsifal coming. Doesn't say his name. But there's this young guy coming. I need you to seduce him. And Kundry's like, yeah, I kind of wanted to go to Starbucks today, so I'm not really into this. And Klingsor's like, no, you're gonna do it. And ultimately, Kundry disappears and Klingsor has the time of his life. So this is the end of the first scene. So the second scene, we're in this beautiful garden. Really beautiful, it's perfect, it's sinful, let's be real. That's what that's what's supposed to be. And basically there are all these young women, all these beautiful young women. Also, Kundry before, she was in a much better state than she was in the first act. Just saying. She was in much better state. But she's not at her full potential yet. So we're getting the Cinderella transformations coming up. But not yet. At the moment, there are all these flower girls, let's say like this, because that's what they're called. And they're all running around, and they have their other knights who fall into sin, basically, and who are not on stage, but we know they're there based on what they say. And we've got then Parsifal coming. So Parsifal, he only knows that the spare is supposed to be there. So he'd like to help the Brotherhood by going there and just retrieving it, because it is so easy and they just didn't have the time to do it. Like, if it was so easy, everyone would have done it. On the other hand, there are a couple of knights who are at the castle, who are with the flower girls. So they probably thought it was as easy as Parsifal thought it was. But anyway, he basically goes in there, and they have this whole moment. He has this whole moment with the flower girls where they're like, oh, a guy, wonderful, we don't have enough yet. Give it. Nymphomaniacs, let's be real. So Parsifal is like, I just came here to do something, and they're like, no, yeah, you came here to, well, you finished the sentence for me, you know what they want him to do. Anyway, but before they get to anything, then a beautiful woman appears. And you know, there's only one woman in this piece, so I'm gonna say it's Kundry. Kundry, she's now washed, she's now clean, she's now in pretty clothes. She does not at all resemble the woman who has been there in the first act. Completely different. Just saying. So, Kundry comes and she says like, flower girls, shoo. And the flower girls are like, okay, good. We've got the other guys. And they're off to go. So then Kundry and Parsifal are alone for the first time, and she tries to seduce him, for which she takes a very strange approach by telling him about his mother and his father and how they loved each other, and kind of saying, sin is part of your family history, so why not sin with me? Like, girl. But anyway. So, basically, with all this, she gets him to ultimately kiss her, more or less. I say more or less because in like the DVD we're going to talk about today, they don't actually kiss. They just roll around on the floor and you don't actually see them kissing, which means they're probably not. So, they kiss, and I have spoiled this in the beginning. Parsifal kind of gets away from Kundry and says, "I'm Fortress!" Because this is the first time he has ever met sin. It's just like Siegfried. They've got this natural rights thing going on. They're like naive. They've never been met with deceiving people with bad things in life. And this is the first time that Parsifal really gets to the bad things in life. And he kind of feels the wound of despair in himself, which is kind of his awakening moment. It was not the Grail, it was Kundry. Kundry's kiss was the thing that made him to the pure fool. By the way, Kundry also told him his name because apparently he had forgotten before. He hadn't read like the book with his name on it. Could have known this before, but he only got his name due to Kundry. There also, I think the first theory I had was that Kundry was actually his mother, which is like very weird. By now I moreover think that either she's really met Herzeleide. It's a horrible name. This is so horrible. If you were German, you would understand how horrible this name is. That she really met Herzeleide and she died with her while in Kundry's care, and then she told Kundry all about it. Or that she kind of was in a magic thing and she got it through that. So, next thing. Again, Parsifal, he's like feeling despair, feeling the sin, and Kundry is like, wait, what happened? This was going so well. We were on a really good path here, because she's just an nymphomaniac as the other ones, and she wants the pureness of Parsifal gone, because that's what Klingsor wants, and therefore it's what she wants. As I said, very confusing. At least for me, it's a thing. I'm not a Parsifal girly, I'm a Ring girly. Stand by it. So, basically they have this whole conversation about what's happening, what's happened, yada yada yada. And Parsifal had his awakening kind of going on, and basically she begs him and she curses him, but he won't hear what she has to say, and he won't sleep with her, basically. So she tells him her whole horrible story, how she left the Savior and can now, I think the explanation was she can now not weep anymore. This is not by me, by the way. She can now not weep anymore, only laugh. So every time she re-met the Savior and would have been at a point where she could have been saved by him personally, she had to laugh instead of cry, and so she always frightened him away because she didn't seem like she was regretting anything. As I said, horrible story for her, horrible thing for this teeny tiny mistake of once laughing at a guy who you don't know who he is. But anyway, also this is not quite clear because the Savior is never named. So considering that we're talking about Herodias before, Herodias had the only real story that she had with someone of the, let's say, Christian party was Peter. So it might as well be that she laughed at Peter at one point or another while Salome was doing her dance or something. So it might also be confined to Peter, not to, well, Jesus himself. But anyway, now she kind of re-met Jesus again in the form of Parsifal. And she kind of wrecks it again. Let's be real. So she really tries everything to get him to sleep with her and to unpurify him. But Parsifal is like, no, I'm out of here. This is not happening. And she curses him. She curses him and says, I curse you to never find your way again. Ever. You will never find what you look for. Which is of course bad, because he wanted to go back to like the castle with the Holy Grail, and now he's destined to never find it again. But then Klingzor appears, and Klingzor, he has the spear with him, and Klingzor says, yeah, bro, not leaving, this is not a thing, the spear and you're now in a relationship, basically. The spear has your name on it, bro. And he throws it at Parsifal, and Parsifal catches it. And in that moment, the whole power of Klingzor blows up, basically. The castle crumbles, the castle falls together, Klingzor disappears, and Parsifal wants to leave, and then in the last moment, he turns around to Kundry and says, you know where to find me. Curtain. So, this was the second act, and if you have more questions than answers, then you're on the same page as me. So, as I said, no guarantee for any of this. I can only say what I think is happening, and it's been a while since I watched Parsifal, I'm gonna say it. Normally if I need like something to calm down or something similar, I watch The Ring, and most certainly not Parsifal, and I am gonna say it. It was Good Friday this year, and I did not watch Parsifal. I'm a bad Wagnerian. But this is so long, I'm sorry. Anyway, this was the second act. Now we're in the third act. Third act is, by the way, there is what is called the Gurnemannsklause, which is in Linderhof, again. We've talked about this before. I don't know when I'll actually get to Linderhof. When I do, I will take you with me, and then I'll show you like all the mythological stuff. For example, there is of course the Hundinghütte from the Valkyrie from the first act, and there's the Gurnemannsklause, which is from this Parsifal third act, and there's also the Grotto of Venus, which has been reopened now, and I've never been inside it, and I don't think we can film in there, unfortunately. So I don't know if I can actually get you into the grotto. If I can, and if I'm allowed to film there, then I will of course take you in there, but I don't know yet. Where was I? Yeah, third act. Okay, good. We're at this place in the woods, this really run-down cabin, which is also, again, not pretty. It's not my favorite place in Linderhof, just saying. My favorite place is Hundinghütte. Beautiful, most beautiful place in the world. I said it. It's a thing. But again, we're at the Gurnemannsklause now, so it's many years later, and it's Good Friday. For anyone who might have asked, why is it so important to watch Parsifal on Good Friday? Because this third act is on Good Friday. The day of new beginnings, the day of, I don't know, not Christian, day of new beginnings, day of healing. We all already know how this is going. So basically Gurnemanns, he's gotten really old, and if we didn't think he was old in the first act, now he's really old. And kind of in some bushes he finds Kundry. So you might ask yourself, wait, has she been lying there the whole time and he didn't notice it? Probably not, because in the moment when she woke up there, her curse is also broken, so Parsifal can find back home. So potentially those two things, there's a connection between them. So basically, he finds Kundry. He says, oh good, girl, I found you now, I'm gonna warm you up and stuff. And she can also always speak only 2 words, which is serve, and the other word is serve. Woo! 2 words. These are her 2 words in the 3rd act. So her part is done, basically. But she's on stage the whole time. Woo! Kind of a Ortrud situation. Only Ortrud had to sing at the last few minutes of Lohengrin Act 1, and Kundry spoke it at the very beginning of Act 3. So then suddenly there comes a strange night. Who could it be? Who could it possibly be? Parsifal. Okay, good. So he's much more matured in this time. He's gotten, well, intelligent. He's seen stuff. Let's just say like this. He's seen stuff. Don't need to say more, I think. So he comes there, he's got the spear, he's got a new armor, he's got a new shield. It's a whole situation. And he says, oh God, I'm finally here. I've been looking for this for so long, but I'm back, basically. And now we've got the, for me, as someone who hates feet horrible part, and unfortunately we have to talk about this. So basically, Kundry lies down, or she crouches down in front of him and she washes his feet, which is this whole ordeal in the Christian Catholic Church. I don't know what is with them washing feet. It's strange, and like, no, people, please. But she does it because she wants to serve, and basically he then takes some water, and I hope he doesn't take it out of the puddle by his feet, but he takes it from somewhere else, and he gets it over her head and Christians her. And this is the point where she basically is saved. So she's now Christian, it's good, it's in the beginning, she's purified of all her sins before. Woo. And then basically Guanemon says, okay, good, we're all good, your feet are washed, Kundry is now Christian, we can go back to the Castle of the Grail, where the whole ordeal is still going on. Amfortas is still not dead because he's been suffering for years and years by now. And Titurel is probably, I don't know if Titurel actually appears in the 3rd act. I would hope at this point, like, I'm not gonna say it, but please, it's a natural order, people. The Grail is not natural. And basically, so this is where another confusing thing for me. While Kundry and Gurnemans and Parsifal go to the castle, there is what Gurnemans says, zum Raum wird hier die Zeit. So time is going to be space right now, or well, yes, time will be space. So either it's just a pretty sentence, which I doubt because it's still Wagner, or they're like traveling in time in a weird way, because they're going for a very long time. Yeah, it's Good Friday. It's still Good Friday. But anyway, so they come to the castle, and Kundry is the first woman to ever step foot into this castle. And basically, Parsifal goes up to Amfortas and says, be healed, and he gets the spear to Amfortas, who is then, the wound is healed, he is purified. Woo, it's all great, it's wonderful, it's good, let's get over it. And Parsifal basically becomes the king of the Grail, and Amfortas gives it all up, and now Parsifal is beginning with a new Grail ritual. And by new, I mean it's just him who does it. Before, Amfortas didn't want to do it anymore. He did it in Act 1. And then apparently for a very long time he had not done the Grail ritual. So Parsifal is the one who does it now, as far as I remember. And then the Grail is revealed and everything, and there's probably a dove coming from above, because why not? By the way, I'm so sorry for all the Christians. I'm not your religion. If I offend you by any means, I'm sorry. But it's a bit strange, the whole dove thing. And then there comes the point, which I'm so keen on, and they mostly leave it out, is that Kundry dies. She dies while looking at the Grail. She's savior. She's saved now. She's Christian. She's purified. She dies, people. Why do you make her live on? She hardly dies anymore, which is... This really annoys me. Why don't you let her die? She's been Christian. She's seen the worst. She can die, honestly. So I think the proper wording is, sie sinkt in Parsifals Armen und siehe zu Boden, which means basically she sinks to the ground while still in Parsifal's arms, soulless, and sealed. I don't know. Sounds a bit weird. Anyway, so this is basically the end. Kundry dies. Very important. This is about her story. Really, Parsifal is not so much about Parsifal's story, but it's much more about Kundry's story. But you couldn't call it Kundry. Come on, let's be honest. She's the bad one. She's the unpurifier. Anyway, this was Parsifal as I see it. Again, if you please watch it yourself, or please see it yourself, because I'm really not an expert on Parsifal. I wouldn't call myself an expert on any of this. This is just how I see it. And our last DVD, I can't believe we're already at this, 10 weeks, is this one. So this is from a sacred, oh, this is wonderful. They actually translated it, because in German it's called ein Bühnenweihfestspiel, because he literally had a new word play for every single thing he did after the last opera Lohengrin. So in Germany it's called ein Bühnenweihfestspiel. In English, apparently, it's called a sacred stage festival play. So much for Wagner's sanity. But anyway, this is from the Metropolitan Opera, and yeah, this is exactly the moment when Kundry appears. So you here have Parsifal, these are all the flower girls, and you have Kundry standing up here. She looks like she's topless. She's not, it's just the lighting. Yes, here on the back side there's a little bit of the Grail, and then there's Gurnemans praising Parsifal for being back. This is from the third act. So this is from the Metropolitan Opera, which means it's a wonderfully traditional way for this to play out. It's simply great this one time. It's really beautiful. It's really beautifully made. It's from the 90s, obviously. So yeah, also it features, again, we can't get away from them. My two favorites, which are Waltraud Meyer and Siegfried Jerusalem. Also, Waltraud Meyer is named first, which I love, because again, Kundry's story. It's not really about Parsifal, it's about Kundry. It's about her story. It's like Beauty and the Beast. Beauty doesn't really do much. The Beast is the one who transforms. This is the same with Kundry. So beautiful production. I think they have like this thing with virtual reality in Bayreuth currently, which I have not seen. I saw the pictures. It's kind of pretty, and I might go there next year because I don't know. Since my favorite ring is ending this year, unfortunately. And next year is the Wagner year. It's 150 years of Bayreuth. I have to look up what I'm going to see next year. So it might be Parsifal. I don't know, I've never seen it before. If Christa Meyer's in it, I'm gonna watch Meistersinger. See Meistersinger. Just saying it. Love that woman. Love her with all my heart. I'm gonna see it this year because it's broadcast, because it's the new production, and the new production is always broadcast. So I'm gonna see it this year and say, oh, it's a good production, it's a not so good production. And if the production's good and Christa Meyer's still in it as Magdalena, I'm good. I'm gonna see it next year. Just saying. But anyway, great production. Is there anything that tells us which year that was? 1993. So yeah. You see it with the clothes, basically. But I just love the Metropolitan Opera for being so traditional. And if you ever want to see like an opera or a Sacred Stage Festival play or something like that for the first time, always watch the Metropolitan Opera, because they're gonna show you the real deal, basically. Because if you start watching like Our Ring from Bayreuth, this is wonderful, but you will not understand most of it. It's just a thing. So I would always recommend starting with Metropolitan Opera there. I think this one specifically is actually on YouTube. I think with Spanish subtitles for weird reasons, but and they're not kissing. I don't think, even though there are Bayreuth's dream couple, or the dream, I think the specific thing is the dream couple of the Green Hill. I don't think they ever kissed, even though they played Tristan and Isolde very famously for, I think, 5 years. And they had this going on. They never kissed on stage, which I know it's not, I think it's just their friendship. Because I saw Siegfried Jerusalem, I think, in a ring in New York kissing another woman. And I've seen Waltraud Meyer kissing various men at this point. So it's just a thing between them. And yeah, I love these two. Sorry, they don't sing anymore because I had to go to Bayreuth the year that she stopped going to Bayreuth. Bloody hell. And so we had a very small point where our paths did cross. And then nothing. Anyway, she left Bayreuth, I went to Bayreuth. So, again, see this. If you've got the resources, and if you're interested in any of these, then, again, either look at the Metropolitan Opera's version or at the version that I introduced you to. And I hope, after 10 weeks of listening to me talking about this stuff, that, well, you had a good time. For this week, this will be the only video, because I'm gonna say it, my intercultural project has ended last Saturday. So, got my ICP report. Obviously, I'm still gonna like do the other things, which are helping like my friends with their YouTube channels and looking at their stuff and saying what to edit out. Because I'm good at saying what to edit out, I'm just not good at doing this. And I'm still gonna help them, obviously, but not for an ICP. And I know that I kind of had a week off already last week, but I think I'm taking like 1 or 2 weeks off after this, because, well, let's say you might have heard what I said about death before, and it's a bit difficult right now, just to adjusting to this new form of life. So it's the natural way, and that's what we always have to tell ourselves. It doesn't make our lives easier. It makes it easier for them to have gone, but it doesn't make our own life easier when there's not the door opening and they come through and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm not gonna cry. I've done enough crying. I know that it's the right thing to do. I know it's good. Anyway, so I hope you had fun with this series. I always find it so funny when I see how many people actually watch these videos and what's more popular and less popular, and I think it's just so fun. Yeah, so I hope you like this series. I hope you had fun with it, and yeah, I think that's almost everything. We've gone through it all. We've gone, I think, from was it 1842 or something? I'm not sure. At least we went from the 1840s to the 1880s, and we've been in exile in between, formed a new form of musical theatre with Tristan and Isolde. We built the biggest thing of all time, the Ring of the Nibelung. And yeah, now we've ended it. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time. Bye and have a nice day.